Would it be okay, recording in progress. Would it be possible to do a screen share?
Yes.
Beautiful. All right, let's see. PowerPoint. Okay. Let me just make one adjustment. My apologies. Bear with me.
While you do that, can you just, I'm taking the meeting notes and I haven't met you before. Can you just tell me what organization you're from?
Absolutely. So my name is Patrick Cleary, and I am from Brookside Square, Owner LLC. I'm one of the original developers and current owners of Brookside Square. And I think, have people, can people see my screen at this point?
Yep.
Yes.
Wonderful. So I'm here because back in, for those of you who may not have been a part of the process, I'm not sure if everybody's been involved in this process. We've been at it for a number of years now. But on December 29th, 2020, we received an approval for an amendment to the Brookside Square special permit, the original Brookside Square permit from back in, I think it was 2013. Brookside Square, of course, is outlined in red and includes the apartments at 50 Beharrell Street, as well as the post office parcel and the smaller parcel of land at 13B Commonwealth Ave. After many years of working very closely with the advisory committee on the design for that building, we were lucky enough to have a mixed-use 3-story building approved. And that consisted of 8 residential units with ground floor commercial and retail space. And this is one of the renderings for that building that was approved, that we were extraordinarily happy with, and very grateful to the advisory committee for working with us so diligently to get to this result. You may remember that a lot of the influence for that building was based upon the Association Hall building, which was located back at the turn of the century, the 1900s, at the corner of the eastern portion of Beharrell Street and Commonwealth Ave. But unfortunately, it burned down. In the top 2 stories burned in 1903. It was rebuilt in 1904. And today, of course, it's the location where Saltbox Kitchen is. So we use that as really, a desire to bring back something that was very uniquely West Concord and something iconic for this stretch of Commonwealth Ave for a different location, which would really be the bookend of the north side of Commonwealth Ave, for a location that is very important to the village as a gateway, but also a gateway into the village, but also the last building that people would see as they're leaving Brookside Village. So this view is really as people are leaving the village, heading west. And then you may remember we bumped the eastern portion of the building back 5 feet to accomplish the goal of making the 2 sides of what is a fairly long frontage of the building appear as if it's 2 separate buildings that were butted up against each other. Coming from the west, heading east, this was the other view of the building that has been approved that people would see, with the signature architectural moment that we worked within the West Concord guidelines to try to create a real signature look to the building for people who are entering the village, calling out Concord Junction. That was actually, has subsequently been changed to West Concord Junction, but with the large picture window flanked by the two doors and awnings on the western facade, so that it wasn't just your typical blank facade as people were coming into the village. I mentioned during this review process that unfortunately the architect that we were working very closely with passed away while we were going through the approval process. So we were, after we were approved, we were forced to transition to a new architectural firm. It's called Lafreniere Associates. They have phenomenal experience working on projects such as these throughout Boston and the suburbs of Massachusetts. So they very much understood the significance of this location and within the context of West Concord Village itself. But because it was such a long and thoughtful process with so many stakeholders, we wanted to really drill down for them all the different goals and intentions behind. It was really a unique location and a unique design. And we touched upon different things such as the inspiration of Association Hall. We wanted to fit in with the architectural and historic tradition of the West Concord Village, the need to make it look like two buildings. The concept of simple elegance kept on coming up during our conversation. And we wanted that signature architectural statement for both people leaving and coming into West Concord, with the goal of bookending the north side of Commonwealth Ave with the memory of Association Hall on the eastern side, with a tribute to that building on the west end of Commonwealth, which would be a modern interpretation. So after we kind of gave the new architect, John, the introduction, we said, hey, all we need from you is to now do production drawings. We're going for our building permit and it is full speed ahead. We want to get into the ground. And we kept on checking in and following up, and I was hearing crickets, unfortunately. So finally I gave him a call and said, you know what is going on here? Why are you not turning this around? And he said the sentence no developer wants to hear, which is, I have some ideas. And he went into some detail in which he said, I've really taken into account all the goals that you're trying to accomplish. And I think I have a way that we can actually make this even better than what you did. And I was kicking myself when I said, okay, let me see what your idea is, even though we've already got an approved project here. It's like breaking the cardinal rule. But he sent me this drawing. And as soon as I saw it, it was actually kind of deflating, because it was clear to me that he was right. And I'd have to a certain degree, not entirely, but to a certain degree, I'd have to go a little bit back to the drawing board, even though we were so far along in the process. We had a preliminary, very high level call with Marcia and Elizabeth, just saying, hey, I know, I need my head examined to even think about coming back and reopening the book potentially on this. But, this is a better design for the location, in my opinion. And, fortunately, Marcia and Elizabeth encouraged us to develop the plans a little bit more. So over the past, I'd say 5 months, that's what we've been doing. And it's not as simple, I have found, as making some adjustments here and there to some windows and to, a few architectural aspects. When you change something on the exterior, it changes everything on the interior as well. So there's been a lot of work over the past 5 months to get this to where I'm I'm presenting it to you tonight. I'm just adjusting this speaker window here because I'm seeing all these faces looking at me. Yeah. So as John pointed out to me, this design is a little bit more in line and a little bit more consistent with Association Hall, with the more prominent cornice. The windows, are a lot more consistent. The side of the building, what he pointed out and really hammered home was the fact that, Association Hall did not have those prominent two-story windows going around the entire building on all four sides. In fact, if you were to have all four sides have the two-story windows, there is some dilution and some watering down of this prominent architectural feature that we want to really, make a significant, statement along Commonwealth Ave. And so we went through the goals again, and I think this building, just in sketch form, achieved these even a little bit better than what we had designed in the past. So if you compare, the same view and the same, the same angle as you come into the village from the west, you see some pretty good differences here, and in my opinion, some great improvements. Now, what we worked on is a few things. This is the more progressed drawing from what you see in the sketch. And there are a few things to call out specifically on this. The windows, obviously, I think are the most, glaring change. And again, having the two-story windows around the entire building, in our minds, might dilute and water down the effect. It's also more prominent, at this location on the frontage here, with it prominently kind of bumped out towards the street. So it makes more of an impact towards the street. And the other thing John pointed out was, if one of the goals is to make the west side and the east side look like they are two different buildings, then you really should have, two different types of windows. So you can see that the eastern white portion of the building does have that separation between the second and third floors of residential. And we think, is consistent and in line with other buildings along this stretch in West Concord, such as, there are elements of the Concord Outfitters building that we thought were pretty consistent by making this change on the eastern facade. You'll also notice that we flip-flop the colors. Something John pointed out was, if you really want to be a bookend, and have Association Hall be the western end, Association Hall, the original Association Hall be the eastern end, and then the modern interpretation be the western end, you really should make the actual western end look more like the Association Hall. So Association Hall used to be that deep red color. So we moved that to the western side and had the eastern side be that white look. So coming in from the west, if we rotate the building a little bit more, the view that we have still maintains that Concord or West Concord Junction sign with the prominent picture window. The balconies that are created by the little setback in the building, you'll notice that the balcony on the first floor is incorporated now into the sign band. So the balcony doesn't necessarily hang over the first floor of the commercial space like it did in the previous version. And when I'm saying that, I'm talking more about the central section of the building, which you can see a little bit better in some other views. This was the former approved design, well, the current approved design, looking west, heading west, looking at the eastern facing facade. And again, you can see that balcony overhanging the ground floor commercial. And this is the new view from what we are now hoping to proceed with. We heard some comments during the West Concord Advisory Committee process, but also at the ZBA and the Planning Board that, you know, could we potentially look a little bit more at, you know, adding some variety to the color of the white side of the building. The white, you know, having the building be entirely white might be a little too stark. So we'd like the first floor, the ground floor, to have a light gray. And we are looking at that to be a shiplap, you know, material, you know, adding some variability to the materials and the look of the all three floors of the building. This is the view coming out of Behavioral Street, coming back from 50 Behavioral towards Commonwealth Ave. And as we talked about, you know, during the past sessions, big aspect of this design is that all four sides need to be significantly, you know, architecturally significant and beautiful. So we wanted to carry that through on our revised renderings and facades. Now, this is the view of the building coming from the west, really looking over the Neshoba Brook Bakery parking lot, as this building will be prominently visible, even, you know, when you start your entrance into the village, just crossing over the Neshoba Brook. And this would be the back view of the building as you enter before you get to Commonwealth Ave. And again, the backside of the western portion of the building being broken up into two levels of windows, but a lot of care and a lot of detail will go into having these windows be, you know, very elegant, very classy, and timeless as the days go on. There is a small bump out that you see that you might be able to see on the western facade there, making that portion of the building that has the picture window, and then the building, the second and third floors above that stand out more so than the rest of that facade. So that's really it. I tried to make it succinct, as I know people have been going through this with us for quite some time. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to go into any amount of detail that you'd like.
Thank you, Patrick. Questions from the committee?
Yeah, I have a question. Patrick, is it okay? Can I go?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Patrick, to understand the design as a committee, we need to see, because this is such an important building, it's the front door for the cultural district, we need to see a plan that shows how it fits with the other buildings. So I can't tell, is it directly in line with Deborah's Natural Gourmet, or is it a little bit shifted back? How is the street going to feel? So we need to see plans of both sides of Commonwealth Avenue
Sorry,
to show
Ann.
it in context.
Sorry, Ann, that is not appropriate because the plan has already been approved. The building has already been approved. All that is changing here is the elevation.
But okay, but then I'm a new member of the committee. I can't, and I'm a registered architect, and I would argue for me, it's an incoherent presentation because I can't tell how it fits. I can't tell how walkable it is. And the West Concord Junction, what it's supposed to do is encourage walkability and lingerability. And I can't tell if that happens because I don't know how this fits with the whole, how it fits in. It may be perfect. I don't know. It really needs, if you want to get the public in, you can't just, because that's not how human experience happens. It's coherent, right? And so we're going to see this building as part of all of what's already there. So we need a drawing that shows that, to show it's perfect.
So what I tried to do with the presentation is show this building next to the previous, to the approved building. And I can tell you that the footprint has not changed. The only real change on the first floor is we adjusted the recess of the storefront doors on the east and the west side so that they aren't as deep as the previously approved recessed doors. I think that changed the footprint by, I think it shifted it 14 square feet per recessed door for a total of 28 square feet. Otherwise, it's really the same footprint. It's just a different look to the building.
So is the red building that looks great, is the red building in line with Deborah's Natural Gourmet now? I'm trying to figure out how it would feel like standing there.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. If you remember back to last fall and winter, you had placed a number of goals for this property and for the village that we should strive for. And we did, we paid quite a bit of attention and went to great lengths to try to accomplish each of those goals. And one of those goals was to align it with Deborah's Gourmet and align it with the frontage along Commonwealth Ave. And we have not shifted that.
Well, that's really important. Thank you for explaining that. That makes a huge difference. Now I understand the drawings better. Thank you, Patrick. That's a lot. I do have another comment, but if someone else wants to go, I have another comment about the cladding. But if someone wants to go before me, that's fine too.
Go ahead, Ann, and then I have a question afterwards.
Okay, so I have a question about that. So as you know, evidence-based design is a big thing now, and we want to really, because we are a cultural district and you're doing our new front door, which is going to be beautiful, we really want to know the quality of construction. And I think you mentioned that you're really being careful about the windows, which is really super. I think what's also really important, and you really see this with the Concord Outfitters building, and particularly with the new building at 17 Beharrell. Are you familiar with that, Patrick? The new building that was redone at 17 Beharrell?
Is that the window?
Yeah.
Yep.
What they're doing is they're really being careful about wood construction. And that kind of fits with the whole history of the junction as a place where a lot of people built things, furniture with their hands. And it's also time-tested New England building traditions. So my question to you is, some of this building looks like it could be simulated or actual wood on the exterior, but I'm not clear if all of it is. It's kind of I don't know. I'm just asking you that.
Sure. So, it will be a stick-built building. It will have elements of steel for the supports, for the structural elements in mostly the commercial level. The panels outside will be cementitious panels. They'll look like wood. But we have found that it's a hardier material and lasts longer and keeps its durability and quality.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ann. Thanks, Patrick. So no change in program, same number of units, same amount of commercial tenant space?
That's correct. So
aside from the recession of the doors that you mentioned.
Yeah. So there's a couple of very small changes. I mentioned the two, elements of the recessing of the doors. Yep. What we found when we looked at so the ground floor has the retail square footage and it has the common area square footage for the residential, the elevator, the machine room, trash room, mail room. It has a little kind of common area for people to sit and for our leasing folks to have meetings with prospective tenants. What we found was that the previous drawing and previous design missed one very important room, which was some utility room. So we need to add a little bit of square footage in the common area. But what that did, we took out a little other area of a hallway, which was not a big issue, not, in violation of any building codes. So we are able to maintain 5,250 square feet of retail commercial space, which still stays consistent with all of our parking ratios. On the upper two levels, you notice that we added the balcony at the front of the building on that southwestern corner. We actually, so we took some square footage away from that corner, but we had added square footage back in the back northwest corner. And that shifted some square footage a little bit. It added a little bit of square footage to the building. Nothing to write home about, and it does not change anything with regard to the number of units, how those number of units are now parked. It just adds a little bit more space to the flow of the units. But that's really it.
That's helpful. So same number of bedrooms assumed in the units?
Correct. So we have 8 total units. We had 2 3-bedroom units, and then we had 6 2-bedroom units.
Great. That's
And
helpful.
those
And
are
one
staying-
final question I was going to ask. The arched windows you're showing in this elevation, is that living space behind the top of them, or is that like a false front?
So that's something that I'm excited about, and John won me over on this. So those are lunette windows. That is living space behind that, which is going to be a very cool feature for those units.
Yep.
We did have those lunettes. You're correct. Where you're going with it. We did have them up on a false parapet. So they were kind of faux windows, and we're doing away with that. We're bringing them down into the living space.
That's much better.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions or comments from the committee?
I just had a clarification. The red portion, sorry, this is John, who live video. The red portion, did you say that's going to be, it's going to look like wood, or it's going to look like brick?
It's going to look like wood, but it's the color of brick.
Got it.
But it will look like, clapboards.
I got it. All right. And then I wanted to make a comment, which is that, I had kind of before I even joined the committee, I had seen this presentation, and I had also seen other presentations. I just respect the approach that you take, and I really, it's refreshing. So I thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. My partners think I'm nuts, but it's an important piece.
I just had a couple of questions. This is Susan. I was wondering, in the course of this redesign, if you and your new architect had a chance to consider any energy efficiency elements of the building, or any new sort of energy, fossil fuel reduction measures, anything like that, an EV hookup or two outside the building. And then I also wanted to know a bit about any green space, or maybe if there's not going to be any, you can tell me that too, but it was kind of unclear from this drawing versus the one that I think Elizabeth Hughes sent out earlier today, how much green space there would be surrounding this building.
Sure. So on the energy efficiency, this building will have all of the same aspects that the formerly approved building had, in terms of, very, very high grade insulation, water saving, equipment. I don't have the list in front of me, but we have a very long list of energy efficiency aspects of the building. We have been exploring in great detail the possibility of going 100% electric as requested at the planning board. And I can tell you, we are getting, much more comfortable with that approach than we were back in the winter. Where we think we will come out, I don't think we are prepared to necessarily, have this be a condition of the approval like we had before, but we do believe we're going to do 100% electric for the residential units. We would like to stub a gas line to the commercial space, only because there are tenants who, for whatever reason, that may be a limiting factor for them entering the building. If a tenant does not come to us and say, for whatever reason, I need gas, then our plan is to just not turn it on. And if we can do 100% electric on the commercial level and still satisfy commercial tenants, we will do that. But one thing just to mention, we don't think that we'll do, we don't think we'll have an opportunity to do a restaurant here, mostly because of parking. But what we have been approached on, and we've been approached on many of our other properties that we own, are the concepts of kitchens that either deliver or have people come and pick up, weekly, nightly meals. So that is, because of the pandemic, it's a very interesting concept where you would not have the, dine-in experience, but you would have a potential kitchen in here. So there may be a need for gas cooking.
Yeah, and just in quick response to that, I mean, induction cooking is much faster and safer than gas. And so if you do have someone who's thinking of doing meal prep in any of the commercial space, I think they would find it to be advantageous actually to use induction cooking, which is, electric, but it's cooking basically using an electromagnetic field and not just the regular electric coil burners that we're used to. So just one sort of thought on that.
I don't disagree. But I also, don't want to limit, in case a tenant comes in and just is not willing to educate themselves on it.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. And then I was just wondering a little bit about, again, the whole green space thing. Maybe there's not going to be any because this is a large building, but I just was wondering what you anticipate there.
Sure. So it's the same foundation that we had on the previous approved plan. If you remember the previous plan, we had some green space on the western side of the building. Would you mind if I stop sharing the screen and I can go find a site plan that shows the green space and then pull it up? But you don't have to see me go through all of my
Your files. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to press stop share now, and then I'll request a screen share in a moment. Let's see.
Amy,
Marsha?
could I take this moment? Just a couple of things. The hope is that the West Concord Advisory Committee can prepare a statement for the Zoning Board of Appeals, who will be viewing this same presentation next Thursday night. So if you could work to come up with a letter, some kind of letter of support or disagreement, it's your choice. You need to poll everyone. That's one goal for this evening. The second is, Patrick mentioned kitchens and takeout, and I think that requires a change to the zoning bylaw. So, but that's for the future.
I'm not proposing that at all.
I know you're not proposing. I'm just putting it out there that because of COVID and because of all we've learned, and the desire to keep our restaurants active and busy, that is something that I think the planning board will be taking up this year. There have been a number of people who've made that suggestion from the business community. So just two items. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Marcia, to make sure I understood, the request from the business community to make a change to,
Right now, we have a prohibition on takeout and fast food. So new restaurants, you can have takeout as a subsidiary of your primary restaurant. So
gotcha.
so it's indoor seating and eating. And what I think the concept that Patrick has alluded to here is one where, looking at our kitchens and seeing how we can better utilize them and be COVID safe. So that's.
Gotcha. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
But just so I'm completely clear, that's not part of my revision and amendment. That's something, if someone comes to us way further down the road, 10 years from now, we'll say to them, it's your hunt to go change the zoning. So I'm able to share the screen now and show the green space if you'd like. Let's see where to go. Where did it go? There it is. So you may notice it's the same footprint. It's the same, green space that we had before. If you see my cursor, it's this triangular piece on this side. And then there's also, it's not huge, but it's this little area here that we've always thought, could set up very well for a little seating area outside of those two doors. And then the green space is really in landscaping all around the site.
And Patrick,
Yeah, go on.
I was going to say one quick question along the northeastern edge. I understand there's an impediment to extending the sidewalk there to connect with the existing sidewalk behind that leads to the back of the post office.
Right.
Is that correct? There's an impediment?
Yeah, so
to extending?
this property has this awkward, angle here.
Right.
That when you do this out, you need some grading. There's a little bit of a dip here in the grade, so you'd need to get an easement from that family. And we've spent years reaching out to that family. Other people have reached out to that family on our behalf. I don't know if they if folks have not believed that we've been following up with them over the past, but people have checked it out themselves, and it's really they're not very communicative.
Other comments from the committee?
I have a quick question.
Go ahead, Ann.
Yeah, and so this is amazing what you've done. I think it's going to be a fantastic front door. It's really amazing, Patrick. Thank you so much for caring. It's really amazing going to be a front door. And I don't think any other cultural district has a new front door like we do. So we can make it a big news item at the Boston Globe.
Right. Hey.
Yeah, and we can also have art celebration around it. It's fantastic. I mean, there's so many things we can do to promote it. It'll be really great, and it's really walkable. And I love the way it aligns with Deborah's. That's just going to be so perfect. It'll make people want to wander on the street just like they're in Venice, whatever. I do have a question. What's your ideal, if you could have anything you wanted, what's your ideal timeline for this project, or how do you see it?
So I took a pretty big risk that this was going to be well received. I wasn't sure, but I was very hopeful that it would be well received. So I have already told my architects to get going on construction drawings. It can be difficult to ballpark when those are going to be done, but let's say maybe 2 months construction drawings done. Maybe it takes 4 to 6 weeks of review by the building department. In the meantime, we're going to be seeking our construction financing and debt all during that time. So I would love to be breaking ground on this I mean, if I could break ground in October, that would be spectacular. Probably more likely sometime in November. And
Of
we may-
21 of this year?
Yeah,
Oh my God, that's fantastic.
yeah.
And how long do you anticipate construction?
Probably between 12 and 15, 16 months, I'd say. What we learned on the back project, another thing that I wanted to note, because it is a big piece of the design. During the planning board, we talked a lot about making sure that the venting for utilities and bathrooms and kitchens and dryers, all that are not coming out horizontally. That the planning board asked and the ZBA asked that at very least they'll be pushed to the back of the building. And if you notice on Brookside, the apartment building in the rear, we have no vents anywhere on second and third floor there, and we put everything through the roof, which is very difficult to do, and it also makes construction extraordinarily difficult, especially during especially in the Northeast when we're dealing with snow. We built Brookside in 2015, and we had 8-foot snow drifts on the roof while we had all of our plumbing and all of our venting going to the roof. So let's hope we have a mild winter and that doesn't hold us up. And if that's the case, then this shouldn't be a construction site for that long.
Thank you.
Members, any comments or questions from the public? None. All right, anything else from the committee? No, okay. Okay, well, thank you for your presentation and thank you for your many visits to the committee. I think we all really appreciate your coming and talking through the design and taking to heart the comments that the committee has offered over time and incorporating them into the design. So thank you. It's certainly an important site in the village, and we're excited to see the project move forward. So thank you for your presentation. Maybe
Thank you.
committee, we can have a chat about letter for the ZBA and what goes in it. Does that sound good? Yeah. Okay. And Patrick, you're welcome to join us for that part, or you're welcome to move on to the rest of your evening, whatever you would like.
If nobody minds, I'd love to be a fly on the wall for that conversation.
Okay. So Marcia, you said this letter needs to be with the ZBA before their meeting next Thursday. Is that correct?
By next Thursday, if possible, that would be great.
By
Before
next-
it's better, but if you need a little extra time, that's Thursday is when they meet.
Okay. So that sounds to me like we would want someone to circulate a letter by the end of by sometime over the weekend with comments due by end of day Monday. So the person has a chance to incorporate it. Does that sound like a reasonable time frame to the committee? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Amy, do you want to vote to make sure that everyone is in support of this redesign?
I was gonna have a conversation about what we would want to say in the letter.
Very good.
And that if that's an appropriate way to do it, maybe talk about things we might want to incorporate, and then vote on that, and then someone, if we can have a volunteer to assemble the letter and then distribute it and then incorporate comments individually, that's allowed. Okay. Does that sound good to the committee as an approach? Okay. So in terms of, let me start here. Does anyone have the bandwidth that would be able to draft this letter for us? Anyone?
I could start it off if you want, as long as everyone knows that they would have to remember to put in things that I might inadvertently miss.
If you're able to, Susan, that would be amazing.
Would it be a Google Doc?
I think the way we need to do it, so we're not deliberating outside of the meeting, is Susan provides the document to us. We review it in whatever format, we usually review documents, and then we provide our comments directly to Susan. And then she's in charge of incorporating them, to the best of her ability in a way that she feels is representative of the sentiments expressed by the committee. So we'd be charging her with the authority to make the final call. The alternative is that we have to review it together at the next meeting. And I think that won't work with the ZBA's timeline. So this is how we typically do letters in the past. And in my tenure, at least, we haven't had an issue. It has thus far not been a contentious process. Are you comfortable with that, Anne?
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if can we say certain recommendations? I mean, I think we don't have much time. We want to get this project done. And so, but at the same time, I think there's some ideas about recommendations, about time-tested design we might want to include.
Yeah.
We need to get it done efficiently. We don't have much time. It has to be done by Monday.
Right. So my thought is if we can share, all of us, those comments, those messages that we think should be incorporated right now. And then Susan will take that input and develop the draft letter and then circulate it to us. And anything that we feel hasn't been, that's missing or hasn't been fully, articulated, we send that feedback to Susan. So thoughts from the committee? What are those messages we would want to be incorporated into the letter? I mean, one I have is just that we really appreciate, the commitment of the developer to, the many visits he's made to the committee over time and the responsiveness to comments from both the committee and the public is much appreciated, would be one. Attention to the character and history of the village center.
Making
be
it feel
another
like a
one.
special place. It's a new front door or back door to the cultural district. That's really important. It's not just something random in Framingham. It's really important. And I think the developer is attending to that. And that's a big cost, I know, but I think it could have a huge return.
Yep.
A huge return, making the real estate more valuable here across the board for all of us.
Yep.
And especially with the bridge opening and everything, I mean, it's just going to be just a huge go-to place.
I may have missed this, but I guess the elevation of the building changed. And do we need to say anything specific about that we are in support of either the building getting taller or shorter? I'm not exactly sure what happened with it, but I think it changed because we no longer have that extra set of windows that was kind of going around the top of the building.
Patrick, maybe it's great that we have you here. Were there any change? We didn't ask specifically. Has there been a change in height?
No real change in height. So the approval that we got, we were able to secure the special permit. I don't know if I'm using the right language here, Marcia, but to go up to 40 feet. We're not going up to 40 feet, but it's not clear right now, just with the structural, drawings, not being complete, what our, floor to floors are going to be. So we are definitely staying within the approved, under the 40-foot, threshold.
Okay.
So if we're like a foot, maybe at most 2 feet off of the previous design, but the previous design also had quite a bit of flexibility, built into it as well, because we didn't know, what the structural was going to look like either. So.
Okay. So the major changes that have happened is the change in, I guess, maybe not in orientation of the building, but the way the two pieces, the white piece and the red piece, have kind of swapped positions. I guess, do we need to make note of our approval for all these different changes, Marcia, or is it more like a holistic sort of blessing that we're supposed to be giving?
I think it is more of that holistic view.
Okay.
Because he has an approved elevation, and and he's making some modifications. It is changing the orientation of the two pieces in relationship to the street. And so you could talk to that, as Anne had mentioned, that it retains that same orientation to the existing structures and the sidewalk, but just flipped the two pieces.
Okay.
It's an improvement. It's a definite improvement because the end building being red, being bigger, having the, the arched windows really makes it the starter building or the bookend the way it wasn't before. It's much better. And the architect, John, was very good.
I think it's an improvement as well. Does anyone disagree with that, or does anyone have any discomfort they would like or concerns they'd like reflected in the letter about the changes? John?
I don't. I agree with. I agree with the comments that it's an improvement. I mean, I was happy with the design before. I'm happy with the considerations that went into the new design, and I agree with the symmetry to the other side of Commonwealth Ave, and then the breaking the sort of window pattern and all those things. They all look really good to me, so I'm comfortable.
I only have one other additional comment, and I'm not sure it's appropriate to put it, but my comment would be is the more the cementitious board could look like wood. There's all different kinds of styles of cementitious board that people use and all different kinds of stuff, but the more it could look like wood, the more it looks like 17 Beharrell, or the more it looks like traditional construction that West Concord is known for, the more it'll help build the identity of the kind of the junction as a coherent place. Because you can get all kinds of funky cementitious board, and I think in a way, the main building should try to stay away from that if possible. Like, Concord Outfitters is very modern actually in construction, but it looks like it's old, but it's not. So in a way, we should kind of try to do that. And there's lots of different choices. I mean, there are millions of choices out there, but that's why I think Concord Outfitters is very successful because people think it's been there for years. They don't realize it's like 5 years old.
I'm comfortable with the suggestion that, as the choices of cladding evolve, that we suggest the more wood-like in appearance, the better.
That would be great. The more wood-like in appearance, because I think that fits with also the new building they're building right now. A half mile away, the new Chase Bank. I went up to them today and they said, "Oh yes, this is wood. We're painting it." I thought it was not. But no, this is wood. They're painting wood today on a new building, right in front of the pizza place. It's going right up. And it actually looks good because I think the one reason your building is so successful is it really is close to the street, and that's going to slow traffic. People will implicitly slow down, which is what I'm obsessed with this. And then it's really good. You're going to break traffic, which is what we want to do.
Does anyone disagree with that comment about wood? I saw nods, but I just want to make sure we're all in agreement about the messages.
I agree.
Another thing I would say is an overarching comment is that, we're, and folks should ask me if they disagree, but that we're pleased with the addition of additional residences, additional people living and working within the district, and additional businesses that will extend the vitality of the business district and support it. I think those are all very positive things. More people living, working, playing, shopping is all a good thing on Commonwealth.
Patrick, related to the energy adjustments that you had described, would you say that those are pretty much a done deal and decided, so we could complement those in this letter, or would you say that is still something you're discussing?
So I wouldn't want to take it to the level of, having it be a condition to the approval. I don't know if it would even be on the table, Marcia, within this administrative approval, but I think it would be worth noting that the developer, if I can suggest language, that the developer has spent quite a bit of time working with, as I said I would, working with experts to get educated on, going 100% electric. And I think it's fair to say we've made great strides towards, finalizing that decision, even though there is a plan to at least have the ability to stub gas just to the commercial square footage. And if we don't need to turn it on, we won't activate it. So I don't know how you want to phrase that, but
Susan,
Marcia?
if you wanted to add something like that, I might suggest that you were encouraged to hear that the developer continues to explore reducing the use of fossil fuels in this building. And just leave it at that.
Okay.
Patrick, I really appreciate, like everybody said, the work that you've done. I liked the building before, I really did, but I agree that it's a little bit better. And I just wonder if you go back to the drawing board again, maybe even make it just an incremental.
I heard 5th time's the charm, Patrick.
I think Marcia was shooting it.
I'm sorry, that was me.
Thank you, Jeffrey. I appreciate it.
Any other messages that that the committee feels should be incorporated into the letter? Do we get it? Okay. So so let me try this. I'm going to move that Susan prepare a letter on behalf of the committee incorporating those sentiments that we just, or I should pause, from the committee, or sorry, from the public, any additional comments that the public would like the committee to consider as they prepare their letter? No, hearing none. Okay, so let me try again. I am going to move that Susan prepare a letter on behalf of the committee for the Zoning Board of Appeals that incorporates those comments from the committee on the revised elevations. Does anyone want to second that?
I second.
Seconded.
Right, and I think we have to do it via roll call. So Amy Robinson. Oh, I'm sorry, you're on mute.
Sorry, I'm typing loudly. I approve.
Thank you. Ann Sussman.
Yes, I approve.
Susan.
I approve.
Jeff.
Approve.
John.
Approve.
And I approve as well. So unanimous passage.
Thank you, everyone, so much. Before I leave, I just want to say when we do break ground and when we do have a an opening, I'd love for all of you to come and celebrate it with us. It means a lot to have your support and really grateful for all of your work. So thank you.
Thank you. We're excited.
you,
We're
Patrick.
excited to see it in the ground.
We'll see you soon.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Susan, for taking that on. Okay, so I'm going to move us on to item number 3, which is complete streets improvements. And so Marcia, I'm going to lean on you for a moment. Ann and I attended a meeting of the Transportation Advisory Committee a couple weeks ago, and Marcia provided an update on some bike and ped improvements that she was able to secure funding for in and around West Concord. And I thought those were very exciting developments and that the committee would be interested in. So I was wondering if you could share those with this committee as well, to put you on the spot.
I'm sorry, Marcia, before you do that, can you tell me again what meeting you attended?
It was the Transportation Advisory
Thanks.
Committee meeting.
I prepared a grant over a year and a half ago and finally heard in December of 2020 that we were being funded to add bike shelters and racks to an area along the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail on land owned by the state for 4 shelters, and it will hold 16 different, no, is it 16 different bike racks underneath these shelters. They are, the funding is for the equipment. The town is responsible for the shipping, handling, and installation. and it's reimbursable from the state. So the project is about $30,000 worth of equipment, and Public Works has agreed that they will do the installation this fall. I've ordered the equipment. It's expected to arrive, I think, end of September, early October. And I've been granted an extension, or will be granted an extension once I have a final date for that installation. So that's coming.
That's great. And I believe there were some flashing beacons at crossings
That's
that you mentioned.
actually another grant that we succeeded on this time around. And that's also, that is it's safety improvements on Old Marlborough Road related to the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. So they will be able to install the pavement activated device for the flashing beacon where the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail crosses Old Marlborough Road. We will have new flashing beacons on Williams Road that will also be triggered by the bikes as they ride over it, rather than having to activate it as a pedestrian. And they are looking at some additional speed signs to let people know how fast they're going in that stretch between Harrington Ave and Williams Road, and possibly in another location, and get new school signs up that are the flashing signs. Additionally, a bike share program for both the West Concord Commuter Station and the Visitor Center in Concord Center. So it was bike and safety oriented and about the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail.
That's great news.
Mm.
Great stuff. So as I was thinking about that, and in light of that, and in light of some conversations I've had with Anne as I've run into her on my, daily walks, and thinking about all the fabulous open space resources that are coming to fruition, and will be here with us in full over the next couple of years around the village center. And then also I was recalling from the long range plan, the hefty percentage of folks that, worked from home even before the pandemic, and how that's increased, and how, there's so many people out and about in the middle of the day in our town center, and people are really using these resources, and how that's a fabulous thing. And I was thinking how, it seems like there are, as we walk around, there are like a handful of pieces and areas where where there's like a gap in the sidewalk network, or a gap in the crosswalks, or, places where maybe the street, the speed limit signage maybe hasn't caught up with, a new crossing of the Bruce Freeman Trail in places, or maybe, the posted signs aren't as visible as they could be because of the way trees and things have grown around them. And so I was thinking, with the new Transportation Advisory Committee and their new bike subcommittee, I was thinking maybe this is a wonderful opportunity for us to do some thinking about, looking around the village center, and are there like a handful of things that may be low hanging fruit that, we could line up. And I'm sure, many of these things will have stories. Some things are harder to do. Some things are less hard, but, maybe there's like a list of doable, a modest number of like 5 or 10 doable projects that maybe we could help to identify, maybe working with the town staff, maybe working with the Transportation Advisory Committee, that, could be things that folks have their eyes on. So as grant funding becomes available for pedestrian or safety improvements, maybe those are things we could pick off. Yeah, Anne.
Yeah, so I think that's a brilliant idea, because I think you actually had this great idea, which I think is great, is if we could just maybe do really quickly a little walk or a little meetup where we just, because there's certain things that are pretty obvious. Like one is nobody knows the speed limit on Commonwealth Avenue in front of Deborah's. Nobody knows what it is. Even at the Transportation Advisory Committee, nobody knew what it was. And it turns out the 20 mile per hour sign are buried. It's 20 mile per hour.
Marcia's saying, I know.
And so we need to like look at if we can move them. There are just a lot of little things that
Yeah.
need to be, because basically this hasn't been the pedestrian biking zone it's going to become. It hasn't been for 50 years. And so this is just a totally new use. And with the mill now at capacity, you have 250 people leaving for lunch, right from Broadford Street. I mean, we've got people with strollers, people in wheelchairs. I mean, we've got to really look at it, I think, differently. And maybe what we could do, one time I worked briefly with Jan Gell, the Danish planner, and his group in Somerville. And what they did is they actually had people stand out for 15 hours, 3 groups of them, and act with a map, looking at how people were actually using the space, where they were crossing illegally, where they were dumping trash, just so we could just mark or where you need to move things. Because to really do evidence-based design, you have to go in and really look at how it's being used. And then you propose a change. And then after you do the change, how successful is it? How successful are the new crosswalks that are on Commonwealth? We talked about that too. People are not crossing by the old 99. People cross where there's no crosswalk all the time still now, and it's super dangerous. So it's like, we can't tackle everything, but I think if we could just mark what we've noticed, and I think the bike people have really good ideas because they see some of the problems, like having 2 speed limits on both sides of the street. That's a problem when you're biking. You can't, and when you're approaching a rail trail crossing.
So I wonder, and maybe folks have other ideas on this, but I wonder if maybe there's an opportunity for in September to have a bonus meeting that's a walk. And maybe, that we invite the Transportation Advisory Committee if they're interested, maybe the Cultural District Committee. And, if there's interest in it among other committees, we could do it ourselves as a starting point if no one else is. And do a little walk, a little list of, things that seem like low-hanging fruit, seem tackleable. My guess is, we may end up with more than really is tackleable, but I don't think it's a bad thing to have a near-term list and a list of bigger things that may be harder, may take longer. And I know, my guess is that there's a good foundation for some of this thinking, that the Complete Streets work that the town has done, did a couple years ago, may have covered some of this ground as well. But it just seemed like there, I was driving, from the roundabout down Commonwealth Ave over the new, newish Bruce Freeman Trail crossing near the Giroux Park. And I was noticing, in one direction, as you're approaching the Bruce Freeman Trail, it says, I'm going to get this wrong, I'm going to reverse it. One direction it signals 20 miles per hour. The other direction as you approach the trail, it says 30. And then if you pass the crossing, it says 30 again. So, just weird inconsistencies like that. Like, hey, everybody, speed up for the trail. Seems like maybe the wrong message. So what do folks think about that? Is that of interest to other folks, or just Ann and I are enthusiastic about this? What do you guys think?
I think it's a great
It's a good
idea.
I think the bike people are into it too. I think Phil Posner would come with us. I think a couple of the bike people are really into it. They really get it. And they have expertise we don't have. And so just working with them would be really great.
Okay. So maybe as a next step, maybe I can reach out to the Cultural District Committee and to the Transpo Committee and see if there's interest in doing this. Maybe I don't know, maybe shoot for like mid-September so we have another meeting to talk about it and organize ourselves and to tell, to put it on an agenda of an official meeting so people see it. Does that sound good?
I think it's brilliant.
Do you have thoughts on this, Marcia? Because I think ultimately we want to, do stuff that will be helpful, that will work for you, that will, make things doable.
I just know that there are some issues right now with the Transportation Advisory Committee that it may need to be reformulated.
Okay.
There were some issues raised by some residents about having town staff involved on the committee, which means that we can't serve on the committee. And so I think the Transportation Advisory Committee is kind of in hiatus at the moment.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm not sure that things will unroll the way you think they might.
Okay.
But we could still reach out to individual residents who know the area like bikers. Can't we reach out to individual residents who bike here every day?
When we could maybe reach out to, isn't there like a Bruce Freeman Rail Trail Committee? And most likely they bike a lot, you know,
They bike a
because
lot.
they're on the committee.
Yeah.
And
We
I
could
think
reach out
what,
to them.
yeah, and I think what we want to do, in compliance, in the spirit of the committee, as well as in, to be compliant with public meeting laws, we'd, want to post it as a meeting. We might put some notices. If we could lean on Susan again, do a couple notices in social media so that if
Yeah.
other folks are passionate about this, I know former members of this committee might be interested as well.
I just
Well,
know September is filling up, and
Okay.
the Concord Ag Days are September 11th and 12th, and Porch Fest is going to be happening on September 25th.
Yep.
So
Okay.
you might need to look into early October.
Okay.
Just
Okay.
a thought.
But
I
we could have a walking thing with our committee in September.
Depending on our agenda, yeah, we could do that as our meeting. We could do it as a bonus meeting. I could imagine doing 2 walks at
Yeah,
2
2
different
walks.
times.
Yeah.
Maybe, if folks have ability to do so and there's interest in it, maybe one during like a lunchtime during the middle of the week, one on a weekend. So we capture, some different kinds of activity as well. If, that doesn't mean that everyone has to attend both of them, but maybe there's 2 opportunities to check out what's going on in a more formal way.
Is there, not that I don't want to go for a walk with all of you, but is there a reason why we couldn't each just in our own lives, like begin our own list and then discuss it at our next meeting so that we don't have to wait until we can coordinate 6 or 7 person plus
That's
other
a
committees
good idea
walk?
too. We could do both. That's a brilliant
That's a
idea.
great idea, Amy. And I think that's great to do. And I think that's like a great sequence. So,
That's a
I
good
can imagine our next meeting discussing like a list of places, people come with their like, I used to work for a transportation nonprofit in my first job out of college and, in Minnesota. And we talked about the HPP list was the big thing at that time in Minnesota, the high priority project list. So we all come with, our draft HPP list of modest scale pedestrian/bike improvements. And that could be a big agenda for, that could be a really useful input in putting together some rough agendas for those walks too,
Yeah, so maybe like if you're doing your independent walk, take some photos of things that you're observing that seem to be out of whack. And then we could always just like screen share and put the photos up and dedupe the things that we've each noticed and come up with our larger list, maybe.
Could we create a Google slide that we share?
I guess individually we could, right? But we can't collaborate on that prior to the meeting. Is that correct,
And then
Marcia?
we join them at the meeting?
Yeah, we could. Yeah.
Yeah, or we could, Anne, if you wanted to be in charge of compiling them too, we could all send them to you. And
That'd be great too, because there's
that's
so many
allowed.
things. Because also, not to get ahead of here, you had also talked about something that I'm really concerned about, the speed coming out of the Rotary on that street where the cars don't park, where there's.
Commonwealth?
Yeah, Commonwealth there, right, on Commonwealth there, where they whiz by and they're crossing. Now there'll be so many people there crossing the rail trail, it's going to be insane. And it's not really designed for bikers there at all, because some bikers, as you noticed, are going to get off the rail trail to go right into the West Concord Cultural District.
I do worry about that stretch of Commonwealth Ave. And full disclosure, I mean, selfishly, like I live on that street and you have like 12 inches of buffer between like cars going 40 miles an hour and your little guys. It's not a great walking experience.
So I think that's
So-
a great idea for next time, though. What Amy said is, let's just each come up with our thing and then we'll each do it, and they can email it to me and I'll put it together. That's an
sounds
awesome idea,
great.
guys. That's a great idea. Amy,
Good.
brilliant. So I'll call it the safe walkability or safe bikeability deck or whatever.
Yep. And in my mind, like that could be gaps in the sidewalk network. It could be, places where there's a desire line for a crosswalk where people are crossing, but there's, no crosswalk.
Or
to
like what
support
you
them in
pointed
that.
out, where the speed zone, it was a sign that nobody ever sees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So things like that. And my suggestion would be that we, focus it around the village center, just to focus our efforts now in the place where people are doing the most walking and we're seeing the most pedestrian activity.
The focus basically on the cultural district area,
Mhm.
accessing the cultural district. Because that's what I noticed, because I'm at the mill now and I bike home tonight. People will be going 40 miles per hour. And so I have to bike on the sidewalk because it's too terrifying. I mean, I shouldn't be telling you that's what I'm doing, but that's what I have to do.
I do that all the time. I just am not willing to take any chances. Sorry,
Yeah.
I shouldn't
Do
have
you
said
bike
it,
on the
but-
sidewalk too? I
Oh,
guess I think
totally, like
it's a
by
girly thing.
default, by default. Yeah. I mean, it's
It's just-
because like when you're traveling and the cars are going so fast beside you, it's just not safe in my mind. I don't
And
know.
what the cars do too is if I try to claim a lane, they go around me 40 miles an hour, and that terrifies me.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm realizing we did our number 4 in advance of our number 3.
I think we have Janet's hand up. I don't know if we're
Oh, I'm
able to
sorry.
call on a member of the public, or maybe we save it for later. I don't know.
Yes, please. Thanks for noticing that. I didn't see that. Janet, please go ahead.
I just wanted to say I'm a bicyclist.
Yeah.
And it's statistically, it is less safe to ride on the sidewalk. And most people don't know that. And I think the reason is that people pull out of driveways, they're not preparing to stop when they reach the sidewalk. They're preparing to stop when they reach the road. So
That is a good point. Yeah.
I mean, it's wide. Commonwealth could have bike lanes painted on it, which would, if you narrow the road, then people go slower.
That's true.
Yeah.
So that is a good segue to at least a portion of Commonwealth Avenue, number 3 on our agenda, which is a Commonwealth Ave Complete Streets Improvement update. Folks who were at our last meeting may recall we got some presentations from the town engineering department about a conceptual plan for improvements to Commonwealth Avenue. And there was an updated version of that plan that I thought did a pretty good job responding to to many of the comments and concerns raised by this committee. And that was presented at a transportation advisory committee a couple weeks ago that Ann and I attended. And I don't know, Marcia, if you have that plan handy or I can pull it up. Okay. Okay. So, I'm sorry, bear with me for one moment. I'm going to do this in a couple stages. So if I can share my screen, this is, oh no, where are you? Too many windows open. So this is the plan we saw last time, which had proposed a crosswalk here at Church Street and a crosswalk here between the Herald and Bradford Street. So we'd lose this crosswalk here, we'd lose this crosswalk here, which was a concern for many folks. I think they felt that, it wasn't responsive to the desire lines and to the freewheeling movement we see of people across Commonwealth Ave, even under the best of circumstances as people move between businesses and destinations. So the revised plan, give me one moment, and I will try and pull up the last version of that. Transportation Advisory Committee. Okay, so I'm going to request to share again. Here is the revised plan. So the crosswalk, let's see, let's locate ourselves. So here is Church Street, here's Bradford Street, here's Beharrell. And so the crosswalk has migrated back to approximately its old location instead of all the way out here. So you don't have so long a stretch for people to travel between to cross the street safely at a crosswalk. And you see bump outs here, and you see some level of bump outs here, and yeah, I guess just this end and here, and then crossing at Bradford Street as well. And so, as they noted in our first meeting, there is not space for bike lanes within the geometry of the street without losing parking. We'd have to eliminate the parking or the travel lanes. And so the bike improvements will be sharrows. They'll paint, they'll use paint and signage to note that, bicycles are welcome to use travel lanes. Is there any, and then I had a couple, I'll mention a couple more things, and then Marcia, please chime in with anything I'm incorrectly representing or haven't or have missed. Coming out of the transportation advisory meeting and then via email afterwards, I provided a couple comments. The first was to thank the town staff for their responsiveness to the committee's comments about the crosswalks and being more responsive to the desire lines and the way people use the street today. There was discussion in the Transportation Advisory Committee meeting about a planting strip. They were going to put a grass buffer they were going to add between parking and the paved area of the sidewalk. The suggestion back, in part relaying a comment I received from a former member of the committee, now a member of the public, as we traded emails on this earlier in the day, was about, instead of grass, which it sounds like would be challenging anyway, the town was considering shrubs as an alternative. I suggested maybe trees or even paving or simply pavers, because it is not a wide or generous sidewalk now, like additional space to walk and for people to pass each other, I think would be valuable, as well as having some space for things like, the furniture, the benches in front of Deborah's and some of the other businesses, I think are a good addition and well used. And I think it would be great, in my mind, it would be great to see trees or more space for those kinds of things rather than simply, a grass strip. And the third comment I made was understanding it is beyond the budget and scope of the project. An additional crosswalk to the west where this meets Losbrook Road would be desirable. So that will be on my high priority project request list for pedestrian improvements that I'll bring to the group next month. And I asked a question about streetlights, just noting that the existing streetlights are really part of the character of the street today. And I was wondering what was anticipated for those. And I was sent some cut sheets from the town and some images. And these will be my last thing to show you. And so here they are, which to me, felt appropriate for a cultural district and, and for the character of the district. I was worried we were going to get highway replacements as opposed to something that has character and that's pedestrian friendly and that we can continue to hang baskets out of. So to me, that was good news. I wanted to provide an update to the committee. I wanted to see, Marcia, if there's anything I misrepresented or gotten wrong, and also to hear from the committee if your thoughts on the evolution of the design vary from mine, if there are other questions, comments, concerns we want to bring to the town. I know they're moving really fast on this and hoping to complete the design and begin enabling work this fall. Is that right, Marcia? Yeah. So
related to the planters or trees or something that you were speaking of, I do think that it's not wise to try to put grass in there and maintain it as something that would look nice, because I just don't see that would work out very well. But I'm
Yeah.
also a little concerned about trees, just given the fact that we salt our roads and it's just so hard to keep something alive that's going to get pummeled with like stacks of snow and salt and all of that. I was wondering if there's the opportunity to put like seasonal, like low planters in that you would then put some like trailing plants, and I don't know, maybe the green thumbs would have some suggestions, but something that would look nice, you know, during the warmer months, and then in the fall and winter months, maybe it gets removed so that that snow cleanup isn't as challenging. I don't know.
Thoughts, Marcia?
We don't have staff who can put it out and take it up every year. And so it would be damaged by snow removal equipment. And we don't have storage capacity. Those are the two. I've worked on this project of how do we green up West Concord since I started working for the community. And, you know, we did our best. The utilities are under the sidewalks, which is crazy. Usually they're out in the street, but somebody in their wisdom back in the 60s or 70s decided, oh, if we put the utilities under the sidewalks, if we have to make repairs, we won't interrupt the flow of traffic, which limits what can be done in terms of plantings. And that's why I've been exploring the idea of planters, but there's been resistance to doing that. If we had a business improvement district, if we had a resource of a place to store these planters and do some additional things, it may be possible in the future. So I wouldn't give up on that idea, but encouraging property owners to add planters along their buildings. I know that in Concord Center, we see a lot of planters being put out and different kinds of things. So if there were a way of encouraging, or maybe if there were a fund where people could contribute and you know, get grants from the Green Thumbs or from the Women's Garden Club, there may be ways of coming up with some ideas that could help enhance.
Where does the design stand now in terms of that? Do you know what they're anticipating?
I'm not sure. I know Justin's on vacation this week, so
Okay.
I hope he's not
So
working.
no changes right now.
Right now. And he'll be back next week, so I can check in with him then.
Well, I would actually be very supportive of trees, but Marcia, are the utilities under the sidewalk precluding trees? Is that? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. You've got water, gas, sewer, electric.
So all we have to do is move it. That's all.
We don't have enough money to move it all back into the street. But yes, you're right. So the next time they have to do a major repair, it should be done.
I think, I mean, I'm interested in others' thoughts. I think, you know, absent the ability to put trees there, I mean, it's really a modest sidewalk. I think like maximizing the real estate that's there for people to use to walk, for benches, for businesses to put out planters and things like that. I would rather see that than like a sad, lonely strip of grass.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think a sad I mean, the grass would look, I assume, like the grass looks in the commuter rail parking lot, which is terrible because the same people would be responsible for maintaining it, and they don't. And the trees, if they planted them, even if they could, would look like the trees in the commuter rail lot, which are dying, and they look terrible. So, like the idea of planters that some group or that businesses put out periodically, so they're looking awful all the time, I think is it like maybe the best of the options, even though in an ideal world, I also would like well cared for trees along the street.
I don't think there's room for trees and plants really there. I mean, the hanging plants are fine or beautiful, but there just isn't room because they're too narrow and people can't walk together walking down the street more than two. You just can't. But I think it works though. It's intimate, it works. it kind of works. And a lot of people hang out at Deborah's right now. Even
Yeah.
during COVID, they were hanging out. So I think it's really good. The one thing I will notice in terms of crosswalks is I note of a lot of communities, and I see this in Concord Center, but nowhere in West Concord, they've got red pavers for a crosswalk. And in some ways, red pavers for a crosswalk, I know can be hard to do, but in a way they do kind of mark an area more as a pedestrian area. They're a little bit, they draw your eye in a different way. They're a little more pleasurable to look at. And I've noticed that in West Concord, there are no red pavers. So in some places it is true in Grafton Center, in Concord Center, there are these red pavers that for a crosswalk kind of define the important area. And in a way, maybe sometime in the future, I realize it's not for this grant, we could think of doing that, defining our cultural district.
Were pavers looked at? I know the budget for this was really
No,
tight.
we couldn't do it for this one. It's too soon, but it could be something we might want to look at for the future, because I think it could really define the area. It would automatically slow cars. It would say it makes pedestrians feel special. It's not just a car thing, you know. This is where, you know, and because some pavers are really beautiful. In Grafton, they're really beautiful crosswalks, and a beautiful crosswalk, hello. And actually in Concord Center, I've seen some beautiful ones too. And we don't have the beautiful crosswalks, and we should. We should have, West Concord should have as beautiful crosswalks as Concord Center. I'll take pictures of one and put them on our file.
I have a question. It's not really about any change to the that plan, but the picture that you showed or the drawing you showed of the lights,
Yeah.
is that something that you can or should share with the people at Concord Park? Because weren't they had spent time considering their lighting of their driveway, and they tied it in with the existing lights that go down Commonwealth Ave. Do you remember them saying that? So if they're going to change the lights on the street, I don't know if Concord Park's changing the lights when they do their work to their driveway, but they might want to know that if it's a meaningfully different look, they might want to see it.
That's a really good idea, Amy, to make it coherent, to make it a coherent sense of place rather than so random. Yeah, that's really good.
Is that, Marcia, help me here. Is that something that the town could most appropriately share with them?
Yeah,
Or
we
is that
could,
something the committee?
but it might also help to come from you as well. We
To
can-
share.
Idea.
Both, yeah.
That's a really good idea, so that we have a certain look in our community. The cultural district feels like a certain cool place. I think it's really good.
And I can send you the person you might want to send that to, Amy.
Okay.
Note.
Okay, that would be great. Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Okay. I'm not gonna let us go past 9.
Yeah, it's getting a little long.
And we have a beefy agenda. Are we allowed to table things on our agenda for next month, Marcia?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so here's what I'm gonna suggest. Left on our list is Giroux Park Improvements Update, Commuter Rail Parking Lot Upkeep Letter, Drafted Design Guidelines Preface Update, which is just that we're on the planning board agenda for, I think, August 11th. Is that right?
August 10th.
August 10th.
And I need to know if there's going to be a quorum of the West Concord Advisory Committee at that meeting,
I can go.
so that we can, if necessary, it can be posted.
What was that date again?
Next Tuesday, August 10.
I can do it.
I
How many
can't.
people do you need, Marcia? How many people?
That's at 7 p.m.
7 p.m. yeah.
Okay.
I need to check, but I'm hoping to attend. So I'm sorry. So how many people could attend? We need 4 for a quorum.
No,
I can do it.
Only if you want to have, if you have that many, I mean, one person can go. If it more than one, if it's a quorum, I need to have it posted. That's,
Oh, okay.
Okay.
so,
I don't know that we need to do it as a joint meeting. I think,
no, you don't.
yeah, I think Susan, if you can make it, that would be amazing.
Yeah, and if Anne
Um,
can come too, I think that would be really
Good.
helpful.
I can make it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will try to make it as well, unless there's someone else who would rather be there. No? Okay, if you have a change of heart, let me know, and I will not go, so we do not hit quorum.
Okay.
Marcia,
Okay.
do we need to prepare a presentation, or like what would be the nature of our participation there?
I think you would want to provide at least an introduction
Mhm.
and explain what the process that you've gone through,
Okay.
thinking that you've gone through, and then um, make the request to have the planning board adopt it as part
Okay.
of the guidelines.
Okay, great.
And then the last thing I want to do tonight is talk about the commuter rail parking lot upkeep draft letter that Amy drafted, which I thought was a rock star letter. So I want to not not put it off discussion of that for another month. Amy, would you be able to pull that up, or do you want me to pull that up because you're taking notes?
I'm taking notes, but I can do it a different way. If you could pull it up, though, that would be amazing.
Absolutely. So give me just a moment to find it.
And thank you for your kind words.
It was a very good letter. I read it and I was like, I don't think I have anything to add. It was perfectly said.
Thank you. I do write for a living, so I don't know much about architecture or planning, which is apparently something that comes up a lot on this committee, but I can write a letter.
You know what it is? Let,
I have it and can pull it up if you're not finding it.
I think I've got it. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
So here I go. Sharing my screen. Let me pull it over. Do you want to read it? Do you want me to read it? Should we read it silently? Any requests from folks?
How do you usually do it? I haven't done this before.
Probably every which way. Should we just read it for a minute?
Yeah, why don't you read it? And then I'll take comments.
That goes so fast, Amy,
Oh,
sorry.
I'm sorry. Sorry. Tell me when to scroll.
You can scroll.
Okay. I have to find my scroll button. Sorry. And then Amy provided these fabulous pictures.
That crack is crazy. Oh my gosh, that's huge. It's like you could fall into it if you weren't careful.
There's a
My-
ton of them.
My daughter, that is the crack that caused her to fall on her face while riding her scooter one day. Helmet, not face, obviously, so she was fine, but scraped up her hands.
Any comments, edits, suggestions on the letter? I had one question. Who is this addressed to? Pardon my ignorance.
Oh, I had notes or comments to myself. So that's the director of public works. Hold on, let me find my own comments.
And highway and ground superintendent, Aaron.
Yeah.
So
I just picked the two people who seemed like they might be the right people. So Marcia, you should tell me if that's
they are the
not
right
correct.
people. They are.
And
the right people.
am I referring to them correctly by their title? Is that okay to do?
Yes.
Is there anyone else that you'd suggest we CC or include in this?
I would make sure to CC the town manager, Stephen Crane,
Okay.
but I don't think he needs to be addressed in this. Just copy.
Okay.
And then how will I send this or the final version of this? Like, is it okay to email it to them?
Absolutely.
Just from my own, email it for myself. Okay.
And if you could CC me too, Amy?
Yes, I will.
Mhm.
That would be great.
So like, Marcia, what would typically be their response or course of action after receiving a letter like this? Would they write us a letter back to say what their plan is, or would we just notice that the lot looks slightly better one day when we pass by a couple months from now? I mean, just wondering.
I don't know because I'm not. Alan Cathcart became director during COVID. And so
Okay.
he is learning what is the purview of Public Works as he goes. This was not being addressed by the prior director, and I brought it to their attention multiple times. So I think it's helpful and beneficial to offer such a letter to Public Works. And but they too have limited staff and resources and will have to figure out when and how they can proceed with all of this. So I think bringing it to their attention, they most likely will respond with a letter of some kind or an email to indicate what the plan is going forward.
So then if they respond to me, should I just forward that along to the committee, and then we can talk about it if there is any talking to do next time?
Yes.
Okay.
Great. So should we move to, I would like to move, well, are there any other comments or suggestions on the letter?
I just had one more thing, and that is, like, should we be asking for them to maintain the lot on like a monthly basis or something, as opposed to maybe they would react to this and do something, you know, like a couple of weeks from now, but then would not put it into their regular round of upkeep that they need to do? I guess I was just wondering, maybe we should insert something that helps them know that we would expect they would be doing this on a regular basis. Is that too forward?
Could we say, what if we did something like saying, the town has a vested interest and a contractual obligation to care for the commuter rail lot in a way that ensures it is safe and appealing on an ongoing basis?
Yeah, that's good.
I like that. Yep.
Okay.
Sorry,
so-
I don't know really how to, this is the first time I've used Google.
No problem. I was like, maybe I can edit it now, but that's fine. So I think we can, I would like, are there any other edits to it? Any other comments? Any members of the public who are still with us who would like to comment? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Andrew, do you have a comment?
Yeah, hi. I'm just
Hi.
for the public comment portion. I just wanted to say hello. I'm the new planning board liaison.
I saw that. Welcome. Thank you for
So
coming
I just wanted
tonight.
to say hello and introduce myself. So if you see me on these calls, that's why I'm there. I'm actually just coming off a 6-year stint on the Public Works Commission, as well as I'm just started the planning board this last month or so. So I'm relatively new as well. So hello all. And look forward to seeing you.
Good to meet
Nice
you.
to meet
Thank you
you.
so much for being here. Okay. So any final comments from anyone on the letter with the benefit of Public Works wisdom? Maybe Andrew has some. Okay. So then I'm going to move that we send this letter as amended to its designees requesting upkeep of the commuter rail parking lot in West Concord. Does anyone want to second that motion?
I'll second that. Third it.
Okay, all in favor, we'll do our roll call vote. Amy,
Yes, I approve.
all right, and I'm sorry, who was our, well, we'll just do Susan,
I approve.
Jeff,
Approve.
and John.
Approve.
All right, excellent.
And
Amy?
Amy Kaiser?
Oh, I'm sorry, I also approve. I approve of my motion. I gave my motion. Okay. Okay. So, given the time, I am going to suggest we conclude our meeting. We will leave Giroux update. and liaison updates and any addition, liaison updates. And I think we have no more public to comment. Jeff, do you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to tell people that there's the sidewalk celebration this weekend.
Good
So
point.
just FYI, and then the tax-free days are coming up the following weekend. So I was going to do that in my liaison, but the rest of it can wait.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good heads up. Anyone else have urgent liaison updates? Nope.
Well, Porch Fest is on September 25th, as Marcia had mentioned, but I guess we'll have a chance to talk about that at our September meeting, but that's something being primarily organized by the Cultural District Committee.
That'll be great. Porch Fest is awesome. Okay, so homework, upcoming homeworks. Susan, thank you so much for drafting that letter on the 13B development. Let's look for that this weekend, and guys, get comments quickly back to Susan so we can get that to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Take pictures of your favorite bike or ped safety issue over the next couple of weeks. Please send them to Anne or bring them to our next meeting, and we'll talk to our colleagues and think about organizing a walk to visit some of those places, as well as some of their favorite spots. We have our design guidelines preface coming to the planning board next Tuesday. So a subset of us will be there to help deliver it. And I think that is all we've got for now. I owe you an email with a doodle poll for planning board, and I owe you meeting notes from last
Oh, actually,
week.
I had a question. Could somebody circulate what ended up being the final version of the design guidelines? I just couldn't find it in my email.
Yeah, definitely. I can send that to you, John.
Thanks.
All right. So motion to, I'm so rusty at this. Motion to end our meeting.
Second.
Adjourn. Yeah.
Second, third,
All in
fourth.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, I see all the hands up. That's unanimous. All right. Thank you so much, Marcia, for spending your evening with us. And thank you to the committee members. It was great to see you all. I hope you all had a good summer so far.
You
See
too.
you in
Thank you.
September.
Thank you, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Night all. Oops. I have to stop the recording.